2 seasons into the Scottish Premiership, and we have been able to establish ourselves as a team that can compete for the title, and an Europa League run that saw us make it to the final before Paris Saint-Germain ruined everything.
Yes, sir!
It's a busy off-season for us, as we bring in players for the future like Trent Lenigan, Yu Oikawa, Tomas Portillo, and Leonardo Campagna on transfers, then squeeze in Yukinari Sugawara to actually play on the right side for squad depth. We also see Orestes leave for Belgium, and then Wolverhampton Wanderers meet the release clause on Cameron Devlin's contract.
Oh, I can't believe you've done this.
We do dive into the loan market for a pair of wonder kids in Archie Gray from Leeds United and striker Emre Tezgel from Stoke City. Tezgel is actually a pretty big get for us, as the Englishman of Turkish descent has shown his potential in outings with England's U21 side and has been compared to Harry Kane as a result of his stocky frame and superb finishing skills. Let's just hope he hasn't inherited his penalty kick woes and lack of ability in clutch situations when it matters most.
He's the choke artist!
We also need a starting goalie after Craig Gordon's retirement, which leads us to grabbing Nathan Baxter from Millwall at $3.7 million and have a deal in place to bring in Nathaniel Nwosu from Nigeria into the fold as a backup. Look, it's a new year, a new start to the Premiership, but in typical Hearts fashion, we draw on the opening game of the season.
This is beginning to become a habit.
Alas, this season, we find ourselves in the league path qualification for the Champions League instead of the Europa. We do enter those qualifiers in the third round against Rosenborg BK from Norway, and we deal with them swiftly, beating them 2-0 on both legs before moving on to the playoff round against FC Porto. After a quick pit stop in the Scottish League Cup against St Johnstone, we have the 2 legs against Porto. We take care of business against the Portuguese side in Tynecastle Park with a 3-0 win that sees Yutaro Oda score a brace, and at Stadio do Dragão, a 3-2 win by Porto is not enough to overturn the aggregate as we punch our ticket right into... right. This is the year in which they switch it from the regular format to the 36-team nonsense. Playing AC Milan and Manchester United is gonna suck, but overall, I think we can get some results here. We roll through the end of August and through September unbeaten, be it on the Premiership side, beating Hibs in the quarterfinal of the Scottish League Cup 3-0, and a draw against Nice in the Champions League, which isn't nice by any stretch, but a little more doable when October sees us run through FC Midtjylland and Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League group stage, and with some solid wins in the Premiership before we draw against Rangers and Celtic within a 3-day span. Yutaro Oda's form has been great this year with 9 assists to his name, so of course he gets a growing strain that takes him out for a month. November comes along, and with it, Hibs actually put up a fight for the first time in almost 3 years by drawing us 1-1, but they still can't win, so that bit keeps going. Benfica suffers an even worse fate than Porto, as the Portuguese side is beaten 5-1 to put ourselves in a more comfortable spot for qualifying to the next round of the Champions League. Ayr and Dundee United get dealt with in Premiership and Scottish League Cup games respectively, and then our biggest game since PSG as AC Milan comes to Scotland for the Champions League.
2 hours later.
It's a boring 0-0 affair. We did make a lot of money out of this one though. It's enough to convince the board to invest in our youth recruitment and in expanding Tynecastle Park.
Pretty neat.
December is an incredible month altogether, as we do pull through with wins in all 6 of our Premiership games, including outings against Rangers and Hibs. In the Champions League, a tough game at Villa Park sees us overcome the Premier League side with a 3-2 win. But the pièce de résistance of this month is the Scottish League Cup final against Celtic, and Yutaro Oda's solo goal in the 10-minute mark, along with a stout defense, is enough to come out victorious and claim our first trophy of the season. We go into the new year.
Man!
Alas, the new year brings more games, as we do take down Livingston and Celtic, but do experience our first straight-up defeat in the Premiership against Aberdeen, before then falling to Manchester United in the Champions League. But the team bounces back with strong wins against Kilmarnock in the 4th round of the Scottish Cup and a come-from-behind win against Feyenoord to wrap up January. The Feyenoord game does guarantee us a qualification to the next round of the Champions League.
Success!
And a new year also means looking at your options to improve the team for the games to come. That means one thing.
Loans. 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 Oh, loans. You gotta have loans.
Calvin Ramsey, Lucero Gertruida, and Japet Tanganga are brought in via loans. Kai Rouse goes on loan to Derby County, and Andy Halliday is out of contract, so he just straight up leaves. During that time, we also do sign free agent James Rodriguez, who is set to retire next year. We move along to February, where after a win against St. Mirren, we get the draw for our Champions League knockout stage match, and we get Chelsea. Ouch. However, the month itself continues to see us maintain first place with 4 wins and a pair of draws against Dundee United and of course Rangers. We do get Emery Tesco back in time for our Scottish Cup 5th round match against Dundee FC, in which he scores within minutes of it, and we win comfortably. But the main event for this month is the 2 legs of the Champions League knockout against Chelsea. The first leg is a boring affair with a 0-0 draw, but given that it happened at Stamford Bridge, that's a win for us, as we get to go into Tynecastle Park for the second leg. Doesn't start well with Mason Mount getting a goal for the Blues, but Yu Oikawa does get us even before the end of the first half. From there, this goes into extra time where Wesley Fofana ends up getting a red card.
Get him off the field! That was diabolical!
But we are unable to capitalize. So, we go to penalty kicks. Jorginho, who is still with Chelsea in this save, does start us off here, but SPK gets saved by Nathan Baxter.
What a save!
James Rodriguez, Mateo Kovacic, Ryan Porteous, Cesare Cazade, and Dujon Sterling all convert, making it 3-2 to Hearts as Ben Chilwell steps up next for Chelsea, and the former Chelsea goalie makes the save again. It's now up to Fabricio Diaz to do his part, and he knocks it home. Hearts are now round of 16 bound in the Champions League. The round of 16 draw comes shortly after that, and we get Fiorentina, which is a lot better than some of the other choices on the table. We continue this incredible run even further as Ayr, Kilmarnock, and Livingston are taken down. We draw against Celtic in the Premiership, but then beat them soundly in the Scottish Cup quarter-final.
Kiss my sweaty balls, you fat f***.
And within the Champions League, we do take the aggregate advantage by beating Fiorentina at home 3-1, and then hold out for a draw in Italy during the second leg, meaning that we are advancing to the quarterfinals against another Italian team in Atalanta. Interesting. 31 games in the Premiership at the start of April that we've done, and our win against St. Johnstone keeps us 5 points ahead of second place Rangers. But in the process of the lead up to our first leg quarterfinal against Atalanta, turns out missing your starting left back isn't a good sign of things to come, as Atalanta scores 3 goals in the second half of the first leg, and our odds are basically slim to none in the Champions League.
Ratio L, you fell off.
A draw against Aberdeen.
Unit lost.
Oh no!
But thankfully, we do have Hibs to beat up on.
Fight back! Fight back!
This is where the Premiership split takes place, and with it, we find ourselves 9 points ahead of Celtic and Rangers respectively, with only 5 games to go in the Premiership, as the title race is heading to the wire. But first, we have to deal with Atalanta in the second leg of the Champions League quarterfinal. At this point, we have absolutely nothing to lose, so we go all out on attacking.
We ball.
Yutaro Oda opens up the scoring within the first minute. Porteous uses his head on a long distance free kick to get us the second goal, and Emre Tezgah capitalizes on a bad pass from the Atalanta defense to tie up the aggregate in the second half. Somehow, someway, this thing is working, and we end up taking this one to extra time, where Luis Guilherme, the loanee from Palmeiras, capitalizes on a Tezgah pass to chip it over the goalie, and holy shit, we are somehow going to the Champions League semi-finals in miraculous fashion again. Okay, let's handle some Scottish Cup business first. We do that by taking out Ayr and punching our ticket to the Scottish Cup final for the 3rd straight year.
You've got mail.
Of course, we got an Edinburgh Derby in the final. But will Hibs actually show up for this one? Or will they just be the usual punching bags that they are? We'll find out at the end of the month. Then we have a chance to seal the title of the Premiership against Aberdeen.
Nope.
It's then that we have to face our destiny against Real Madrid, where we get dominated on most aspects of the game, but somehow only manage to lose 2-0, which is more feasible than our situation in the quarterfinal, but it's also against a team that is much better than Atalanta in every aspect. But first, take 2 on this whole league win thing, this time against Rangers.
2 hours later.
Another day, another draw. We'll deal with it in due time. We've got the second leg of the Champions League semi-final to deal with here at Tynecastle Park. We do start that one by scoring early yet again, this time off of a Yassine Salmani shot in the box from a set piece before Ryan Porteous ties the aggregate off on a corner kick header. We're somehow hanging on, and even though Rodrigo does score in the 63rd minute for Real, Emre Tezgah delivers for us in the clutch yet again with a 3rd goal to force this into extra time. But with a team as talented as Real Madrid, we ran out of steam. They score at the tail end of the first half of extra time, and that incredible run we just had in the Champions League sees a bittersweet end to it that gives way to an El Clasico final.
Boring!
But our efforts here are more than encouraging, as our focus can shift solely to the match against Dundee United. A win against the Terrors guarantees us the Scottish Premiership. Our goal to disrupt Scottish League football is much sooner at hand than any of us expected, and we go for broke here, as in the second half, and 4 goals later, we have actually done it. Heart of Midlothian Football Club has its first Scottish Premiership trophy since the 1959-1960 season. Not only do we qualify for the Champions League outright next year, but the absolute scenes that are going to be celebrated in Edinburgh is going to be amazing, especially for a fan-owned club like this one that has been more than deserving of the opportunity to boogie it up accordingly. With the title secured, our focus is on the Scottish Cup final. We've got a double in our hands, but the opportunity to pull off a treble against our heated rivals... No matter how Tub Hibs tries to make it of a game, we seize the opportunity with a pair of goals in the second half, and we seize our 3rd straight Scottish Cup, and the treble is ours. In our 3rd season with Hearts, we've reached the top of the mountain in Scottish football, winning all 3 of the most important competitions in the country, winning trophies in all of them. So the goal for next year is to be able to defend these in every competition. But we also have to consider one more goal: Champions League glory. Sir Alex Ferguson with Aberdeen glory. Whether we do it or not, you'll just have to tune in and find out.